Welcome to Smokin Bulls, the podcast about business, money, and lifestyle. Today we're chatting with Jeff Krukoff. My name's Tyler.
I'm Dave.
Let's get into it. We're chatting about some lifestyle conversations today, about some of the shows that we're watching on our streaming services. And actually, Jeff, what have you been watching? It was one we've chatted about when we were out for a golf game last week.
Yeah, I've gone deep into the world of sports documentaries.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd love to tell you that I have all these other different pastimes during the pandemic, but the reality is you get busy with family and work, and seems like, streaming Netflix and Prime is kind of my lifestyle right now, as sad as it is. But I think what started it was early on in the pandemic, everyone was looking for something to do and staying home. And for me, it was The Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls documentary that really got me hooked, because I was a kid, obviously, that grew up in the 80s and 90s, and Jordan was just the guy.
If you didn't watch
and I remember watching the Bulls.
Watch the Bulls, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was just so to see that kind of come back full circle now it was incredible, and it was a really well done documentary. Yep. And I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, it just kind of sparked this resurgence in sports documentaries. And if you think about it, at the time, we didn't have live sports. I remember in March when the NHL canceled the season, when NBA canceled the season, things were pushed out. So everybody kind of needed to get their sports fix, exactly. And that was kind of that was the only show in town.
Yeah.
Quite literally, so to speak. So
now you're hooked on them.
I'm hooked. I'm in deep. So I wanted to kind of share some of my favorites. I'd be curious to hear what you guys recommend. So The Last Dance was one for sure. The one that we were talking about the other day was a new series on Netflix, Untold. And I think, Dave, you watched one of these the other night.
We talked about it yesterday, and I watched it last night.
So it's fresh in your mind, but it's Untold: Crime and Penalties. And essentially, it's a story. I think it was back in 2004, and it was essentially a gangster. It was based in Connecticut, and this gangster who apparently his life may have been kind of the precursor for the story of Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. Ran one of the largest waste management businesses on the East Coast, and just absolutely adored his son. And his son is kind of goofy but kind of smart at the same time, but loved Mighty Ducks when he was a kid, got into hockey, became a bit of a goon, fought his way through low playing hockey, got injured and couldn't play anymore. So his father, the gangster, decided to buy him a hockey franchise in the United Hockey League and put him in charge at 17 years old. So he was the president GM, making all the decisions of the Danbury Trashers. And it follows the story of all these characters and the players that he recruited and some of the staff he had around him that, may or may not have been wise guys associated in various activities. And it was like Mighty Ducks meets Slapshot meets The Sopranos is the best way to describe it, and it's hilarious.
Happy Gilmore. Guy reminded me of Happy Gilmore almost. I mean, maybe he could skate. It looked like he could skate, but Gilmore was just a goon.
Yeah,
and had one trick.
Slapshot. Yeah. But the funny part is that he actually ended up building a relatively successful team. So it was this team that just went out and wanted to beat the crap out of everybody on any given night. But they actually started winning some hockey games, and they were selling out jerseys and selling out the arena. And so there was kind of this love-hate relationship with the commissioner where he didn't necessarily like where they were going, but also at the same time, you can't argue with butts in the seats.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was the most recent one. Have you guys seen anything else recently?
I was watching the Bulls Last Dance.
Yeah.
I think I only got 3 episodes in, and I gave up on it. I think it's like 10 episodes, isn't it, or something like that?
I've never heard anybody else actually say that. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to try it again because I was watching it, and I was the same. I was a kid, wasn't a basketball fan, but I was a Jordan fan, and so you just had to watch him play, right? It's one of those guys that transcended sports, right? He went from, it didn't matter if you were a basketball fan or not, you were a Jordan fan.
Absolutely.
That's like what Tiger Woods was 10 or 15 years ago, sparked a revolution in golf. But interesting. Yeah, no, I haven't I can't comment much on this because I haven't watched many sports documentaries.
There you go. Well, and you brought up Tiger. That was another one I've watched recently. HBO did a two-part series on Tiger and kind of going back as a child and Tiger's one of those figures that people either love him or loathe him. And both are probably rightfully so.
Sure.
But it's interesting, and I think part of the reason that they're so popular and I like them is you see these people competing, on the golf course, on the hardwood, in the rink, on the field, whatever it is. But then you kind of hear and see some of the stories behind the scenes of their upbringing and what made them the way that they are, because the most intense athletes are very different individuals. Like their wiring is just completely different. From myself, who dropped out of bowling at age 11, and clearly I lacked that killer instinct. But yeah, the Tiger Woods documentary was very good, and there's definitely some things in his upbringing, his childhood that make sense.
Yeah,
I won't go into spoiler mode there, but there's some things that happen certainly that you can kind of connect the dots of why some things happened the way they did in his life. The other one I really enjoyed, and it's not a sport that I would ever participate in, was free solo. Did you guys see that one?
That's the climbing one, right?
That was the climbing one.
I did watch that, yeah.
And just I was blown away. So this guy is free climbing, so no ropes, no safety harness, and he was climbing the sheer cliff face. I think it was El Capitan was the name of it, and it's just this buildup, and again kind of ties into what we discussed earlier, like just the psychology of him being able to get himself in the mindset of this life or death scenario. And I remember sitting there watching it, and my palms were sweating and my heart was beating, and that's how into this documentary I was, because you're viewing it through this lens, and it's unbelievable.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I got to watch more of these.
Yeah, and that was a more serious one and more intense. There's some fun ones, like the Andre the Giant.
Oh yeah.
Documentaries are always good. He was a larger than life character, figuratively and literally speaking. And you hear these stories of him going out after a match and drinking 80 beers, and it's just, you kind of get a chuckle. But then you see the other side where he had some medical issues and actually lived through a lot of pain most of his life. So just, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It just humanizes these athletes that we all put on a pedestal, and it just kind of makes it a little more real life. And there's some great stories behind the scenes.
Cool.
I think I got caught halfway through one of the surf movie, the girl that had her arm bitten
off.
Oh
yeah.
Which one was that?
Something surf.
You may have heard of the girl. She had her arm bitten off.
Oh, okay.
By a shark? Hawaii. She returned to surfing, after, to compete again. So,
There's some good. One of the other ones people are going to think I don't do anything else other than sit home and watch Netflix. But there's another good one on HBO. It's the 100-foot wave, and it's it follows these big wave surfers.
Oh yeah.
And they go to Portugal. And Portugal, most people don't think of it as a surf haven. They think of Hawaii or whatever. But apparently there's this kind of unique geological formation where there's a big undersea, valley or shelf or something, and the waves hit it just in a certain way, and then it comes up and literally creates these 80 to 100-foot waves, and these guys are out there getting towed into it by jet skis to try and surf the thing. And it's incredible. You see the footage of this massive wave and just this little individual kind of skipping along the surface of it.
And it's way out at ocean. Like, it's not near shore. Like, it's way out in the middle of the ocean.
It is a shore break.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a shore break. So you see some of them wipe out and getting washed up.
Wasn't this a movie? Wasn't this Point Break, or what was it? Didn't they rob some banks first?
Johnny Utah.
Yeah, that's right.
Johnny Utah. Great movie. The original,
yeah.
not the remake. So like I said, I'm not a particularly great athlete myself, so maybe I'm just living vicariously through some of these individuals.
That's okay. Yeah.
So where do you find most of them? Is it Netflix or that carries a lot of it?
Mostly Netflix. Yeah. Some are on on HBO Crave.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's 30 different streaming services these days, so it's hard to.
Do you have normal cable still, or do you just stream?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm one of those old school guys that just can't quite cut the cord. Yeah, I probably should. Like if
I'm trying to. Yeah.
If I actually analyzed how much I actually watched it, it'd probably be an easy decision.
Yeah,
but,
I got rid of it.
Hey, I'm dealing with loss aversion. I can't handle with losing my cable package right now.
There you go.
Yeah, we canceled our cable right before the pandemic hit.
It
was like, I think it was just January or something, or February is when I canceled the cable package.
And how did you feel about it a few months later?
After, then the pandemic kicks in. I'm like, oh, great, what did I do? But we didn't miss it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure if we did, I'd be fine. But
the main thing we missed was, or that I would miss, would be having local news broadcasts. But there is free to air TV that's high definition.
You can buy it's like $30 or something that plugs into your. It's like rabbit ears almost.
It's just like it's an antenna,
it's like high def local TV. All the local channels come down. So
you get all the local channels.
It's quite a bit.
All we ever used.
12 or 13 or something like that channels.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And then so you get all that local stuff, which is what I thought I would miss, and then being able to get it on free to air was great. The only thing you do miss is sports, so you might have to get a Sportsnet package,
which is the priciest one.
I think that's the last remaining kind of bastion of kind of cable TV. Yeah. People are trying to figure out this whole live streaming sports. I mean, you can get it now; it's just not always the greatest quality.
Well, I've tried over the years.
With the Sportsnet, I subscribed to that package during the playoffs because I wanted to catch all the playoff games and the hockey. And I think it was $20 a month, and you can have it on any device, so your TVs, your phones, like wherever, which was great. Like if we're out and about camping or something, we can turn the hockey game on.
Yeah.
So that was actually pretty handy. I'm trying to think of the other thing that I've used. That's the main one, I guess. Sportsnet package.
Do you have the free to air plug-in type thing?
Yeah,
you need one for each TV, right?
You do, but I just wired it into the whole house. So you just put the antenna on upstairs on one of the windows out of the way somewhere, and then it's wired into a splitter in the basement, and that splitter goes to, it's the cable box, like the cable splitter that runs to all your coax behind every TV.
So you just use the coax to everything?
Yep. Yeah, so that antenna then runs every TV, one antenna. Yeah. And they're like $15 for the antenna. It's nothing.
This podcast is sponsored by
TELUS and Media. Yeah, not by them.
Not by them. Not by Rogers either.
Cut the cord. Well, that was great, Jeff. Thanks for sharing some of the stuff you do in your off time, which is streaming and downloading. Not downloading, but
sitting on my rear end watching
sports documentaries.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's a great lifestyle.
You heard it here first. Yeah. No, we'll have to check them out. But thanks very much for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching this episode of Smokin Bulls. To find out more about us, go to smokinbulls.com or follow us on social media.